Welcome to FO Talks. With me is Appo Jabarian. He is a political commentator and geopolitical analyst with a focus on the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and the Caucasus. He is of Armenian origin, and today we will talk about the upcoming elections in Armenia that will be held on the 7th of June. Welcome, Appo, and thank you for speaking to Fair Observer.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Rohan.
Right. So before we started the recording, we were talking about the importance that Armenia plays in geopolitics, and you were talking about how it's a small country by landmass, but very, very important for the region. So very quickly for our global audience, can you tell us about the upcoming elections in Armenia? And you can go into as much detail as you like. Who are the contenders? What are the political parties? And what is the mood of the nation? And what are the Armenians feeling about the elections?
Thank you for the great question, Rohan. Let me start from the geopolitical brief history of the region. Not that Armenians are very, very important people or anything else. It's just that Armenia historically has found itself to be in the epicenter of international, global, geopolitical great competition. So that area of the globe, as we look at the world map, we will notice that even today's small landmass occupying state, Armenia, which has been there thousands of years, but today's Armenia is maybe like 1/10 of historic Armenia. But as a whole, Armenia has been and continues to be in right at the juncture, the land bridge in the Eurasian neighborhood, the land bridge that connects north and south, east and west. So this is a Marco Polo era connected strategic location. So now going to your wonderful question, the elections in Armenia are going to decide as to whether the people of Armenia and the region as a whole, by the region I mean the South Caucasus, which includes Georgia, Azerbaijan, and then going north, Moldova, Ukraine, Romania. So all that area that we call Eastern and Southeastern Europe embodies the democratic, the ring of democracy. So among the nations that are part of the ring of the democracy, Armenia is the latest playing ground or the competition arena for geopolitical big competition. So the elections are going to decide whether Armenia is going to move forward with a consolidated sovereign right to further develop its foreign alliances and diversify its foreign alliances and not allow itself to be monopolized by any regional or international power. So in this case, in the June 7th parliamentary elections, the electors of Armenia will have to decide between the two camps. The first camp being the pro-Russian wing, and that camp is mostly populated by the old regime kleptocracy, mainly in the person of second president Robert Kocharian, the third president Serge Sarkisian, and then the Russian oligarch who's born in Armenia, Samvel Karapetyan. So we are now witnessing a major influx into Armenia, human influx and capital influx. Reportedly, there are a great number of election bribe distributors in Armenia in favor of the old regime kleptocracy that wants to return to power at all costs. So this is one camp, and the other camp is populated by, I would say, the huge majority of the civil society in Armenia, and that camp is the political forces that are vying to diversify Armenia's foreign alliances at all costs, because they are convinced that Armenia can no longer allow itself to be monopolized by any foreign power.
Right.
So this second camp is led by the ruling party, Civic Contract Party of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, and also there are other independent parties that are similarly pursuing diversification of Armenia's foreign alliances, and furthermore, they are insisting on Armenia's aspirations, European aspirations, to integrate Armenia with Europe and with the wider free world. I wouldn't say the West, because the free world also includes Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, India. So this is not West anymore. So we're talking about the global free world. So Armenia is vying to join the global free world so that it could elevate the level, the standard of living, and bring it to par to the free world standard of living.
Right. Appo, very interestingly, you explained that there's two sides. One that is pro-Russia, going back to the Soviet Union, the ties of Armenia and Russia and the Soviet Union. But then you've got the other side, as you say, that they're trying to diversify Armenia's foreign policy. That is, of course, being led by Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. However, many critics say that he's not really diversifying. In fact, he's firmly picked the American side, and that has sped up after the war in Nagorno Karabakh. Many even say that he's outrightly ditched Russia as an ally. Now, how much of that is true, and how much of that is a factor this election?
That's a baseless propaganda. That's a Moscow backed line of propaganda. So these are Kremlin approved talking points. Armenia, as we may have noticed, is not allowing itself to be monopolized by any power, and we have witnessed in the last few years, in the aftermath of the 2020 44-day war, when Russia joined Turkey, Azerbaijan, Israel, and Pakistan to invade and depopulate historic Armenian region of Nagorno Karabakh, which in Armenian is called Artsakh. So how could we say that Pashinyan is allowing United States to monopolize Armenia? That's a baseless accusation that people are not finding it convincing. So we have witnessed how Armenia diversified its foreign alliances by engaging into a strategic partnership with India, for example, which is remarkable. So that takes away from the argument that Pashinyan is letting United States monopolize Armenia. See, this is the basic difference that the pro-Russian camp fails to recognize. If a nation, if a sovereign state is well integrated with the free world, it's only natural that the standard of living, the economy, the civil society, democracy is going to flourish and be at the standard of the free world. So people have to decide between autocratic Russia, which is detrimental to any nation's economic development, and they have to decide between flourishing free world. Let's look at North Korea and South Korea. Let's look at let's even look at Vietnam, that fought against the free world during the War of Vietnam, and now it has chosen to be well integrated with the free world. So the South Korea, North Korea example is, I think, is a timely example, is spot on, because that illustrates the standard of living, illustrates the stark contrast between the two civil societies. So people have to choose between, for example, India that is not advancing, and India that is advancing and developing in strides. So that's very clear example. So,
right. Appo, one of the important things that I want you to tell us about is Nagorno Karabakh. I mean, this is the first time Armenia is going to vote since the war. And I mean, Armenia did end up losing the war to Azerbaijan. Armenians were forced to flee Nagorno Karabakh, a region, a land that they've lived in for hundreds of years. So how are ordinary Armenians feeling about this election? And how much is Nagorno Karabakh playing an impacting factor in this election? Are people angry? Are people grieving? Or are they just looking for peace?
For the record, the June 7, 2026 parliamentary elections are the second elections in the aftermath of the anti-Armenian terrorist aggression. Many Armenians and many political observers agree that this was not a war. It was not, absolutely not a war. It was staged terrorist aggression, again, anti-Armenian terrorist aggression by Azerbaijan, Turkey, ISIS, Russia, Israel, Pakistan, and ISIS. So this was a scenario which was well thought out by these forces that I just mentioned, and they carried out the depopulation of historic Nagorno-Karabakh, Armenia, through an uninstigated war, uninstigated terrorist aggression, and they did it under the cover of COVID 2020. So this reminds us of the Armenian genocide of 1915-1923, which was perpetrated by Turkey under the cover of the First World War. So going back to historic status of Nagorno-Karabakh, Nagorno-Karabakh was an integral part of historic Armenia and even a part of 1918-1920 First Democratic Republic of Armenia. This was before Sovietization. So Azerbaijan back in 1917 didn't even exist. So the Tsarist Russia passed on its foreign policy objective to Soviet Russia to artificially create the Republic of Armenia. And the main objective for the artificial creation of the Republic of Azerbaijan, did I say Armenia? I should correct myself. So the Soviet Russia has carried on the Tsarist Russia, Russia's policy in creating artificial Republic of Azerbaijan to put Armenia down and keep Iran out of the region and other nations out of the region. In other words, monopolize the entire South Caucasus and also monopolize the oil resources of the Caspian Sea. So that's basically what happened. So Stalin forcibly carved out Nagorno Karabakh from the First Democratic Republic of Armenia and gifted to newly created Azerbaijan. And it did the same. He did the same thing with Nakhichevan, which is on the western side of Armenia of today. So basically, that's what happened. In the aftermath of the dismantlement and the destruction of the Soviet Empire, Armenia and Armenians and Azerbaijanis got into a war. And during the first liberation war, Armenians prevailed and they liberated Artsakh. However, the second and third presidents of Armenia sabotaged Armenia's and Armenians' rightful objective to consolidate Nagorno-Karabakh's right to self-determination. So they postponed the peaceful solution. They acted as if they are invincible, but it was all a show just to postpone and keep on postponing the fair solution to the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict in order to keep Armenia in Russian within Russian zone of influence. And Russia has been conducting a policy of pitting neighbors against each other to perpetuate its hold on the region as a whole. So this is the stark difference between the free world led by United States and Europe and the autocratic world led by Russia. So you wouldn't see, for example, United States or the West pitting one country against each other just to maintain its influence over both countries. That doesn't happen. If you are in partnership with Europe and or United States as a state, then you have a viable means to develop and prosper and thrive. Whereas if you get into a partnership with Russia, you will end up like Venezuela. You will end up like Syria, North Korea. So the standard of living will not be at par with the free world, and your industry is not going to flourish. So that's what happens. People right now in Armenia are getting ready to decide between the free world and the autocratic world that they have experienced during the last, I would say, 70 plus 28 years. So now they're getting ready to once and for all consolidate Armenia's position as a sovereign, independent, and democratic civil society.
Appo, I'm not so sure about your claims on the United States being a trustworthy ally, because I'm speaking to you from India, and we've seen how the US has treated India and Pakistan. I mean, they've clearly picked Field Marshal Asim Munir and Pakistan to do their bidding. And this is despite the fact that Pakistan once housed Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks. On the other hand, you've also got the Trump administration levying the highest number of tariffs on any country, and that is India. India and US had actually been working very closely together, and this is an assumption that India had, that if you're with the US, if you work with the US, you will get a good deal. But that's not really been the case. And when it comes to you saying that the US would never pit two countries against each other, Pakistan and India are a case in point. But what I want you to answer is, what is the popularity of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan? Because it was under his tenure when Nagorno Karabakh was lost and Azerbaijan captured it. Are people happy with him? Are people looking for a different leadership, but continuing with his party? I mean, there are conflicting media reports. It's very hard to do research on Armenia because not many international outlets are writing about it. But whoever is writing about it gives a very colored picture. Some are calling him the upholder of democracy. Some media organizations are even calling him a traitor. It's two extremes. I don't think that should be the case. But how is the overall perception of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan?
Nikol Pashinyan, the Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, it continues to be very popular, despite the fact that it was during his administration, Armenia's lost Nagorno Karabakh. But see, the huge majority of the civil society in Armenia is keenly aware of the fact that Nikol Pashinyan, along with the rest of the population in Armenia, became a victim of an international plot led by Russia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan mainly. And people do remember very clearly till this day that in the aftermath of the 44-day anti-Armenian terrorist aggression in Nagorno-Karabakh, Russia's then defense minister Shoigu went on the air congratulating Aliyev on mission accomplished against Armenians. And this is on one side. On the other hand, Russian-sponsored corrupted political leaders and even some generals in the Armenian army sabotaged Armenia's defense efforts. So this was not a fair fight. In normal situations, when a nation would lose a war, its political leader, the commander-in-chief, resigns. But in this case, it was the opposite. People from within Armenia and around the world urged Pashinyan not to resign in the immediate aftermath of the 44-day war in order to obstruct the old regime kleptocracy to perpetrate return to power, revanchism. So this whole thing was orchestrated, it seemed, to many people at that time, and now it's very clear that it was orchestrated in order to embarrass Nikol Pashinyan, the prime minister, and eliminate him as a major political player in Armenia and replace him with the pro-Russia old regime kleptocracy.
Right. Appo, before we wrap this conversation up, since this election has so much geopolitical background to it, who's really watching this election? You've spoken about Azerbaijan and Russia working together. You've spoken about the US, India, Japan as the alternative. You've also spoken about Iran, very briefly though, and of course Israel and Turkey. So it looks like there's a lot of interest in this election, and everyone's looking at Armenia with a very different perspective. So, how is this election going to play out in the region once the results are out?
I think every nation that's part of the region and also international powers are watching very closely these elections, because these elections are going to prove to be pivotal in geopolitical future of the world, really, because this is a very important piece of real estate that connects north and south, east and west, that connects in reality the ring of democracy that I was describing with Iran all the way with India. So this is an election that's going to prove to be historic. But when everything is said and done, we will see what the civil society in Armenia, what the voters in Armenia are vying for. Are they vying for full integration with the free world, or they will allow Armenia to revert to its Soviet status under a new union led by autocratic Russian President Putin? So these elections are very, very important because if Russia takes over Armenia through massive election bribes, which we know about, many investigative reporters are asserting that Russia is outspending any group in Armenia, pumping billions and billions of dollars to circulate election bribes, and we are also witnessing how Armenia's security forces are uncovering and apprehending many election bribe distributors in Armenia. And there are also reports that Russian FSB agents are already in Armenia under civilian cover, participating in the election bribes and hybrid warfare to tilt the elections in favor of Russia. So this is we will witness a major development in the next couple of weeks in Armenia. So,
right.
And I understand these elections are also important for Iran and Russia. Iran and India as well, because no matter how Russia is trying to paint Iran and India to be in the Russian camp, but at the end of the day, Iran and India have their own political aspirations. No matter what happens, no matter how foreign policy decision makers in Washington mishandle situations, the dynamics between Pakistan and India, but at the end of the day, India is a great ally of the United States, and in the same token, we shall not be surprised to see, even without regime change in Iran, for example, Iran starting to develop friendlier relations with the free world. But because at the end of the day, the Iranian people, like the rest of humanity, they want to be integrated with the free world because they don't want to be connected or controlled by backwards autocratic society led by Putin. Iran has its own sovereign right to diversify its foreign alliances with or without the regime change. That's secondary. So basically, everybody is watching the elections in Armenia.
Right. Appo, I have a follow-up to that because you said something very interesting. Yes, India and Iran are definitely watching the election, but you didn't touch upon Israel. Now, Israel is a very interesting case because Israel is allies with the US, Israel is also allies with India, and Israel is fighting a war with Iran. But when it comes to Armenia, Israel has almost always supported Azerbaijan. So how is Israel fitting into this picture? I mean, it's very strange, the kind of foreign policy that they are taking when it comes to Armenia and Azerbaijan, especially Armenia.
Well, Israel is presently controlled by Netanyahu's group. So I'm sure the Israeli people will see the unfairness of Prime Minister Netanyahu's foreign policy, which has been notoriously against Armenia's interest. And we will see. I mean, this is not something that will last. Everything will change. So things will revert back to fair and equitable international relations to create lasting peace and collaboration among the nations. So right now, it's no secret that the entire humanity is going through unprecedented geopolitical upheaval. So, yes, Israel has supported Azerbaijan because Israel is getting its oil from Azerbaijan through Turkey. So the geopolitical arena and the world is convoluted. There is no clear answer to every situation, but we must be following closely all the developments. Who could have said that a day would come when Israel will be pitted against Turkey? Nobody expected that. So geopolitical changes are fast moving, sometimes with the speed of light. So we shall see.
Brilliant. Appo, it was wonderful having you, and thank you very much for speaking to Fair Observer.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.